by councils at a local level. What happened during the 1960s and 1970s was the progressive stripping away of the powers and prerogatives of local government at a council level. This was partly done by institutional means, obviously by the taking away of the GPT right, but it was also done through administrative practice and through the Kenyan state's systematic preference for the system of provincial administration against local county council government. This, over a period of time, turned county councils into bodies which had very little in the way of power and very little in the way of responsibility, and they therefore became, as we all know, a byword for irresponsible politics and corruption. Now, the councils created under the new constitution have quite limited powers and very limited ability to raise their own revenue. They are quite vulnerable to exactly the same process which took away the powers and significance of the county councils in the 1960s and 1970s. This is a process which will also make the county governors, seen at the moment by some people as plum appointments, potentially with great responsibilities and power. It may actually take away much of the real power and responsibility of those roles and make it even more likely that county governors will turn into individuals who dabble mainly in ethnic politics in order to give themselves some kind of sense of status and importance, given their actual real lack of power against a central state. There are real significant threats to this process of devolution of powers, and we have to think about this very carefully in the light of historical experience. The last thing I would like to say very briefly is that the other thing historical experience teaches us is that even if the laws which have to be made are made well, the tendency towards an authoritarian assumption and overriding of the letter of the law has consistently been a powerful one in Kenya. Laws, whatever they say, have to be observed to have any meaning. People have to know their rights in order to exercise them. To give you an example of what I mean by this, if Kenya has systematically seen the non-observance of all kinds of laws, sometimes because people do not know their rights, sometimes because the people who are supposed to enforce the laws are not aware of their provisions. A few years ago, I spent a little bit of time looking through the petty crime registers in a number of Kenyan police stations, and I was interested to note that a number of individuals were being prosecuted and convicted under a piece of legislation that had ceased to exist some years before. Why was this happening? It was happening because the individuals involved had no idea that the legislation had been repealed, and so they didn't say, hang on, you can't do that. But it was also happening because the police and the magistrates didn't know either, because if they had known, they would have used a new piece of legislation under which they could also have prosecuted these people. Now, this is really important, because it's not just a question that the subjects don't know their rights. It has also often been the case that the people who are supposed to enforce the law don't know what the law says. As we go forward into this very busy process of new lawmaking, the drafting and creation of new laws, we have to watch both that the detail of that is not, how can one put it, subverted by centralising tendencies within the state, but we also have to be very careful that as the law changes, information about that is fed down to a local level so that people know what new rights they have, and also the people who are observing the law, who are enforcing the law, know what it is supposed to be, so at least they don't have the excuse of ignorance when they fail to follow it. I think that is a really important thing for the future, and I hope very much that Kenya's active and vibrant civil society will make it very much its business to scrutinise this process of lawmaking, but even more to feed down information on this and to focus very much on that activity. Those are just my concerns. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Justin. We would now like to throw open the discussion to questions from the floor. If it works, what I hope to do is to light on somebody to ask a question, and then to ask people who have questions on the same theme. So we get a discussion which is organised a little thematically, if we can. Please, if you would, in asking your question, just tell us who you are I'm not sure whether we have any wandering mics. We do. Thank you. So please look out for the wandering mic and announce yourself as you ask a question. I think the gentleman in the 6th row there, if I'm right. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Hamis Mugendola. I'm a Ugandan, so I'm a member of Kenya. I'm here as a student on a Commonwealth scholarship. I would like to ask Mr. Githongo, what is the basis of your belief that the new constitution is going to work? The short time I stayed in Kenya, every public office you go to, you find a word or a statement, this is a corruption-free area. But the reverse takes place. In the buses, you find very nice statements. Nijivunia kuwa Mkenya, this is a corruption-free area. The reverse goes on.
This is a words-free area. Would you like the question to be about the Constitution's workability, or corruption, or the bus service?
No, the question I'm asking him is that in regard to what has been there, people don't do what they actually say.
So
now, what is the basis of his belief that this paper is going to work when all those messages everywhere have not worked?
Thank you. Lady in the middle row at the back.
Hi, my name is Agnes Githongo, London African Media Network. Quickly to respond to the gentleman, it will work because we are truly proud to be Kenyans and we make this work. Githongo, just a question to you. What does Inuka do? And you failed to maybe discuss a little bit about what your organization does in Kenya.
Thank you. Any questions related to the likely effectiveness of the Constitution in effecting transformation? John Small.
Thank you. John Small, Eastern Africa Association. It's to do with the Constitution. Was it a good idea to invite President al-Bashir to the promulgation ceremony?
Okay, thank you. John, are you happy to?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Hamisi, for that is a question that we're all asking ourselves, but allow us, and I think I'll speak for many Kenyans, this moment of hope. You see, after the 2007-2008 violence, I went around the country, and when I spoke to many people, I spent a year doing that, especially women, said that they will not participate in elections ever again because of the violence that they have seen and the blood that has been spilled. Now, when the referendum came, the turnout in terms of people registering to be able to vote during the referendum was unprecedented, number one. Number two, the sheer scale of the victory in terms of the strength that Kenyans expressed in terms of how much they wanted a new constitution when they voted on August the 4th is the basis of my hope. Despite, I know those posters in every office. When I was in government, I was partly responsible for putting those posters there, and I apologize because we realized that these posters and stuff are a waste of money and time. And Hamisi, I'll tell you, the one time when I was in government, 2 times, and you forgive me, I'll just take just 2 anecdotes, the only way I can explain it to you, of the way Kenyans think. And we know we are a man-eat-man society, as Nyerere said. We have accepted this. But when I was in government, for the first 6 to 8 months, one of my problems in office was the fact that I was dealing with senior police officers telephoning me because Kenyans were arresting policemen for corruption. That was a crisis that we were dealing with.